Which NFL teams were the biggest losers of the 2023 NFL Draft? Which teams did I feel absolutely sucked and drafted a terrible, awful, no good draft class this year? These are my biggest losers of the 2023 NFL Draft. Before I give you my least favorite drafts of this year, make sure to spike the like button and subscribe to the channel. And also in the comments, I'm hating on your favorite team, so hate on me back. Let me know why you defend your favorite team's draft, or let me know if you disagree in any manner in the comments section below. Let's begin with a football team that I love to cheer for, but I have to question their process this year. That's the Detroit Lions. If there was a title for the most disappointing draft class of 2023, it would be the Detroit Lions. I'm not saying they're going to come away without good players, because they come away with good players. Jack Campbell, top linebacker in the class. Branch, arguably the top safety / nickel in the class. And Jahmyr Gibbs, seen by some as the best running back, at least the second best running back. So there's certainly good players in this class. But I question the team building. I question the players they could have gotten in this class at more important marquee positions to winning in the NFL today. So the process is what bothers me. 6th overall pick, you trade back to number 12 and land Gibbs. I love Gibbs. I saw him as 1B to Bijan Robinson's 1A in this class. Think he's a phenomenal, game-changing, elusive running back. But running backs are just not that important to winning in the NFL today. Look at the Super Bowl. Look at who was the starting running back in the Super Bowl. Look at the Super Bowl champions of years past lately. It's not that big of a deal to have a great running back in today's league. And I understand that Gibbs can impact the passing game and the running game, and they see him as an Alvin Kamara type. I get it. But you had a DeAndre Swift who you gave away for much less because you spent so much capital on Gibbs that you feel like you have to play him a ton of snaps. It's just puzzling when at number 6, you could have taken Tyree Wilson. You could have taken Jalen Carter. At number 12, even if you still trade back, you could have taken Christian Gonzalez. 3 players that I love at impactful positions for your team and really needs for your defense. You needed defense. You came away with 0 elite defenders, really, in this class. 0. And then Jack Campbell, a player I like, but at a position that's hard to really have consistency at. Linebacker's really difficult to play in today's NFL. And Jack Campbell, good football player, my favorite linebacker in the class, saw him as an end of round 1 talent. They pick him at 18. Feels like they could have traded back and still landed him. So confusing. Hendon Hooker, I like the value at that pick. I like that he has the opportunity to sit behind Jared Goff and potentially be the quarterback of the future on a cheap contract. I get it. I like it more than most. Branch, same thing. I like that pick. Everyone universally likes that pick because of his versatility, his intelligence. He can impact your defense right away. Like it. Sam Laporta going over Michael Mayer is definitely a head scratcher, for sure, in my opinion. D-tackle, offensive guard, players that won't really help your team this year. I don't see them playing very much. And you end it with a wide receiver. Okay, whatever. I just feel like the Lions missed their opportunity to go from good team to great team if they were able to land a couple of key positions or key players or game changers. And even if the players they got are game changers, they're at positions that really don't impact winning that much. So it's the process for me over the results of these picks for the Lions. I think they missed a huge opportunity. The next team that I thought absolutely sucked during the 2023 NFL Draft, a big loser, is the Houston Texans. And people are going to be like, what? Mitch, I thought you loved CJ Stroud. You would have picked him first. Yes, absolutely. It's not CJ Stroud. That is not it. My problem is the trade at number 3. It's such a terrible, 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 I can't overstate this, terrible trade for the Houston Texans. And some people are saying, well, the trade was really for CJ Stroud. Well, was it? I don't know. They picked CJ Stroud at number 2. They picked Will Anderson at number 3. The trade was for number 3. Even if you look at it that way, why not just pick CJ Stroud at number 2 anyways? Like, I don't get it. Just don't trade up for Will Anderson if it's going to cost you your next first round pick next year in a better draft with 2 potentially franchise quarterbacks, the best quarterback prospect that everybody is claiming since Patrick Mahomes, and a wide receiver that's literally the go-to guy for the quarterback you just picked. You could have him in the top 3, top 4, top 5 next year to pair with your great quarterback. I mean, duh. Just absolute stupidity, idiocy. I don't know what else to say here, Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans. It felt like DeMeco Ryans really needed Will Anderson. That's what it felt like to me. They were so in love with Will Anderson. DeMeco Ryans stood on the table and said, I can't run my defense without a pass rusher, and I love Will Anderson. We have to get Will Anderson if we're going to pick a quarterback. Maybe there was some ownership intertwingling, whatever you call it, to get CJ Stroud because he really didn't want to come away without a quarterback. But, like, I don't understand. Just stay at 12. Like, I don't even love Will Anderson that much. That's what makes it even worse to me. I'd rather just stay at 12, pick CJ Stroud, who's my guy, and then wait and pick, like, I don't know. The next pass rusher was Lucas Van Ness if you really want an edge player. Or you could have grabbed Christian Gonzalez, who probably would have been my pick at that part. At 12, right? Or you could have went with a receiver. You could have picked Zay Flowers there if you really want to get one. I would have been fine with that. Or Jackson Smith and Jigba, because you need a receiver. Like something else. Like, why do you have to trade your entire draft next year and your hopes and your futures for this guy? Even if they're franchise players, you still mess it up. Because the Texans aren't going to be good this year. I don't care. Like, it's so bad. I don't even have to go through the rest of the draft. I mean, you pick a center. That's great. You needed a center. Cool. Tank Dell. I love Tank Dell. Great. But it's the first round. Like, everyone's like, oh, they got Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. That's an amazing draft. Well, you just gave away Marvin Harrison Jr. in order to get Will Anderson. I'm not even going to include the possibility of getting Caleb Williams. You gave away Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know if you've watched Marvin Harrison Jr., but I'd like to have Marvin Harrison Jr. over Will Anderson every day, and especially Sunday. So, man, I hate the Texans draft. I thought that was such a stupid decision long term. Hate it. The next loser for me of the 2023 NFL draft, this one is less stressful. The Jacksonville Jags are low-key losers. Not high-key like the Houston Texans. Not idiots like the Houston Texans. But Jacksonville has just had a kind of an underwhelming offseason as a collective. This is a team that at the end of last year made a surprising little push in the playoffs. They beat the Chargers in some sort of miracle. They came back and won. And then they played the Chiefs really, really, really well in that game at Arrowhead. And yeah, they picked up Calvin Ridley. That technically counts. But this draft just, I don't see how it really helps them to win right now, which is what I think they need to do with Trevor Lawrence on a rookie contract. Anton Harrison is basically their answer to their left tackle getting suspended, Robinson. That's why they picked this kid by every report. Like, why are you picking a guy solely based on the fact that a guy's going to get suspended? I don't know. That's a little weird to me. Like, I thought they already had their answer at both tackle positions. I understand you can't go wrong with picking another tackle here. So I'm not going to totally hate on the pick. And he was the right pick given the consensus board of tackles left. And he was a first round talent in my opinion. But like, I just felt like Jacksonville underwhelmed. They pick a tackle here, which they need, but not really. They pick a tight end that's basically the same but worse of Evan Ingram. Does that really help them right now? Not really. Tank Bigsby is a running back, their third pick at number 88. I'm not even a big fan of him. I thought there were better running backs left on the board at that point. And he's a backup. So you're picking backups with your first 3 picks, essentially, and a guy that's going to start until the guy comes back from suspension. And then, I don't know, like a bunch of depth guys at linebacker and defensive end and stuff like that. So overall, I just think Jacksonville underwhelmed because I'm looking at them as a team that can make a push and take a step forward and launch themselves into contendership. But I think they just missed that opportunity with how they organized and went about the draft. I think it was just extremely sleepy and underwhelming and boring. The next loser of the 2023 NFL draft. This one is going to get the people going and the blood boiling. But I do not care. You want my opinions. That's why you're here. I felt like the Carolina Panthers absolutely lost this draft. Again, it sounds like I'm a Bryce Young hater, but that's not what I'm trying to be. Quite frankly, if this pick was CJ Stroud, I would have still been angry about this move. I felt like the trade was not a good trade in the first place. To move up from number 9 to number 1. It's a big reason why I think you're a loser. You give up a first, multiple second round picks, and a top 20 receiver in the NFL, and then the Bears actually get more capital out of the trade with the Eagles. That's just tough. For a guy that, in Bryce Young, I think will be good but not great. I'm just being honest here. I think the Panthers are all in on Bryce Young. If he is not the guy, they have set their franchise back. And I like Bryce Young off the field. Seems like a great guy, seems like a good leader, has great work habits, things that will help him succeed in the NFL. But DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, another first round pick, another second round pick, is it really worth it at the end of the day? And then for the rest of the draft, not a huge fan of Jonathan Mingo. He's big, he's fast. To me, he can't run effective routes, he can't separate or get open, and he didn't produce at a high level in college. I wasn't a huge fan of him. Then you go with an edge, which you did need, a guard, and a defensive back. Fine, okay. But, I mean, I just think that trade was too much for Bryce Young. I think this is too risky. I would have never done this. And maybe we'll look back at this trade and say, hey, it was worth it for Bryce Young and the Bears did nothing with these picks. But hey, if Carolina's not as good as we think this year, that could be a premium pick this season. Even in that division. Could still be a top 10 pick. If Darnell Wright's a premier tackle, that could be a great pick. But Carolina wouldn't have picked a tackle. They probably would have went with a quarterback, or they probably would have went with some impactful position. They probably wouldn't have picked a tackle at number 9, so I know that it was Darnell Wright, but they might have even landed Jalen Carter, who could be a superstar. So it's tough to really say. Carolina Panthers, I just didn't love the process to move up to 1, and I also didn't love the rest of their draft, really, on top of Bryce Young. Another draft loser is the New York Jets. And the reason the New York Jets are a draft loser is because early in the draft, it appeared they got sniped. And then it appeared they panicked. And they just didn't play the board properly. And then on top of that, they failed to realize that they are now in their window. Once you trade for Aaron Rodgers, you are officially in that window. You are a contender. And you are trying to build a team that can last into January and win a Super Bowl. That's what the Bucs did really well, is realize that when they had Brady, it's time. It's go time. We don't have time to waste. With the Jets, it appears that they had a draft more for the future than for the now, which it just doesn't make sense from a timeline standpoint. Obviously, it was clear that they wanted Jones, and the Steelers trade right in front of them with the Patriots and land their player. And then they don't land a tackle until later on. They end up getting an offensive lineman in the second round, a center, but not a difference maker right away. They re-signed McGovern, so that guy's not really seeing the field unless there's an injury, because you already have very good guards. So what's the plan there? Is Elijah Vera Tucker going to slide over to right tackle then? Is Dwayne Brown going to be one of your tackles? Can Becton even stay healthy? There's a lot of questions about the offensive line, which is crucial to the success of Aaron Rodgers at his old age. It's not like he used to be. This isn't a guy that can hold up as well. We saw him get a little banged up last year. This isn't a guy that can avoid all the pressure in the world, that will be affected by pressure. So having a great offensive line, if you're the Jets, is essential to winning a Super Bowl right now. And they failed to realize that early in this draft. And they also kind of panicked on Will McDonald. I like McDonald. I think he's a good prospect. I actually probably had him very similarly rated to the Jets. I had him in that top 20 range in this draft. I don't think a lot of teams did, though, which is why I'd say maybe you could have traded back. Maybe there was not that possibility for the Jets. Maybe the phones weren't ringing. I don't know. But it just felt like center in the second, edge in the first, a position that's not really that important right now to address, given the fact you have a lot of talent already at that position, and it feels like Will McDonald isn't going to play a ton in year one. And I'm just thinking, like, how could the Jets have gone about their draft and instantly made themselves an AFC no-doubt contender and favorite? They're already going to be picked to do some things this year, go to the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers, but how could they have maybe upped their odds? And sitting there at number 15, I feel like Will McDonald's a nice player, but what if they would have picked Jackson Smith and Jigba? You know? What if they would have traded back and gotten a tackle and then added another player to the mix? Maybe a pass rusher instead of McDonald. You never know, right? But like, I feel the Jets just missed the understanding of what they are now. You're not rebuilding. You are a contender. You have to act like it. And I felt like the Jets didn't. And the final disappointing draft of 2023, a draft that I didn't feel sucked, but I definitely felt was disappointing. The Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs obviously won the Super Bowl, had a great draft, which actually enabled them to win the Super Bowl last year. But they're looking to build a consistent champion, a team that can repeat, a team that can build a dynasty. That's what they're trying to do. It's bigger than just winning a Super Bowl. I felt like this year, this draft didn't pop at me like last year's draft. It was kind of dull. I don't feel like they got anyone that right away can contribute to this team, which when you're in win now mode, that's what I'm looking for. Like the Bengals, I felt had a great draft because they got players that can help them win a Super Bowl right now, like this year. Maybe Felix is that guy out of Kansas State, the edge, who's got a hybrid capability. And they did look to improve their defensive line, and they did move on from Frank Clark, right? So they had to look to replace his talent as a pass rusher. So this is maybe what they were working for and looking for. But I'm surprised the Chiefs didn't try to move up and maybe land like a Zay Flowers or whichever receiver prospect was their favorite, because I felt like receiver was the biggest need entering the draft. And I felt like tackle was maybe the second biggest need. And yeah, they addressed all their needs in the first 3 rounds, but Rashee Rice, I'm not sure is going to ever be a starting receiver for the Chiefs. I see some flashes of things that I like, enough to select him at 55, but I don't know, man. I just felt like the Chiefs maybe didn't go as aggressive as I would have liked in this draft. Tried to make a real move in this draft. And they didn't address tackle until pick number 92. So, I don't know. I just didn't feel like coming away from the draft, the Chiefs really made a major difference in their odds to win the Super Bowl once again in 2023. So that's why I added them to the end of this list. If you guys enjoyed this video, spike the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.